So, hi everyone. George, is it Pavol, Aubrey? I saw Brooke joining. So, we are in our 12th month of 2021 for the book club. And this month's book was The One Thing by Gary Keller. One of the funny things is I love to read, I love to listen. And when, when I first, I don't know why I couldn't download this book in English on my audio, but it kept coming up in like Dutch. I could, Josie tried, we all tried, so I ended up buying the book, marketing it up, reading it, which is great, but I can do it so much faster with the audio. So I don't know, every time I would turn on, Josie's like, what is that? But there was a lot of takeaways in the book. And for those of you that read it, I would love your input. But I would tell you probably my most favorite part of the whole book is near the end, which I'm going to read it to you because it's personally, what's the word? It gave me license to do something that I do. And I'm always feeling guilty about it. And it's in the chapter 17 near the end, and we'll bounce all the way around. But for those of you that have not been part of this before, but the fear of chaos. So I don't know about anyone on this call, but full disclosure, I think I have 86,000 emails in my inbox. Every so often on an airplane, I'll say, today's the day I'm going to like delete all of them from 2020 or, whatever, or I'm going to go through. And it just, after I could work on it for an hour or 2 hours and it just doesn't make a difference. And he talks about that in The Fear of Chaos. And one of the there's a little quote he puts in every few pages, and it says, if a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign of? And that was a quote from Albert Einstein. So I was like, I am no longer going to feel guilty. My desk is not that messy, but my inbox drives Josie crazy. She's the girl that every night at the end of the night goes home and there's nothing in her inbox. And I go through phases where I'm unsubscribing to all of this crap, but they don't unsubscribe. And it's just, I could be prospecting during those times. It's like I could do something way more valuable than cleaning up my inbox. So I feel vindicated by Gary Keller's book, where he talks about for 3 or 4 pages, don't let some distractions of things like that to stop you from doing the one thing. And for me, the one thing is always and will forever be prospecting, because whether I'm filling vacancies for my shopping centers, helping my clients fill vacancies, filling vacancies, which means canvassing, cold calling, reaching out to nationals, reaching out to tenant rep brokers. I mean, that's the thing. Now, do I do it 4 hours a day? Like he recommends doing the one thing 4 hours a day. I don't do it 4 hours a day. But when I was new in the business, I would say the first 5 years in the business, now I'm in my 36th year, I did it probably 6 hours a day. So it was the one thing. And I absolutely collected, as he talks about in this book, the 10,000 hours of prospecting. So I am an expert at prospecting, which is why I teach it now. So, but I was very excited when I was finishing the book this morning at 6:30, when I got to that chapter and it said, you don't need to worry about those 86,000 emails, Beth. Just let them sit in that outbox. And I'm like, yay. So I know some of you on the call are probably cringing like Josie because she can't stand it. But it doesn't bother me. And I'd much rather pay attention to something important like the one thing. So, so Liz, you said you read it a year ago. Do you remember something that stood out that you would like to contribute before you have to go to your meeting?
Oh yeah, no, I just love the idea of priorities, of just, that's like the thesis of the book, is like have your priorities in check and have your focus there, because multitasking, being distracted, not knowing, difficulty making decisions, all that kind of stuff. So if you have a laser focus, then you're much more likely to be successful. So you can't be great at all things, but you can be great at your one thing. So getting really, really clear on that. Like I do like a lot of values clarification, and just know like I have 3 core values. If these values are in line, then everything else just kind of falls into place in my life. So I kind of have my top 3. He says 1, but as you're thinking about how do I spend this next hour, how do I focus my day, knowing what either it's your top values or your one thing, it just creates so much focus and you become such a stronger person.
And you were right. I was going to say to you, he says that we say priorities, and then he says that it really should be one priority, right? And he defines, I think he defined priority as the one thing. And then he says, and now since our culture has taken over and this whole multitasking thing has occurred, that now there's all of these new words on, that people use. I'll see if I can find it, about it's no longer the priorities has now gone by the wayside, and we've come up with all of these other words or phrases because we've expanded the priority into multiple things. So I thought that was very interesting also. But he does tie the priorities and the one thing into, what's your mission? What are your values? What is the thing that I think the number one question is, what if you did this one thing, everything else would be easy. Let's see, where's the question? Hold on.
The core one thing question.
Yeah.
Let me find it. What is the one thing I can do such that by doing everything else will be easier or unnecessary?
Right. Easier or, yeah. So for me, what's the one thing I can do that will make everything easier or unnecessary? If the one thing I do is prospect for my vacancies or for my clients' vacancies, it makes building up the income of the property easier. And it makes doing a lot of other things unnecessary, like email blasts that don't work, and which I scream about all day, every day. But there's things we do that are then unnecessary, because if we're, everyone's like, what's the best way to get nationals to take space in our shopping centers? Everyone's looking for the magic pill, right? What's the one system I can buy to get, what it is? It's picking up the phone and calling the national. That's the best way to get to the national, but everyone avoids that because it's hard work and it takes gumption to do it, because it's not always easy, and everyone wants the easy thing. Oh, I can send an email blast to 50 nationals, and then that's the worst thing you can do. Right, Brooke Kahn, you know that.
Yeah, luckily I learned that early on and haven't had any real problems with it since then. I'd much rather pick up the phone and just call somebody and stuff, but I think I really enjoyed the reinforcement of multitasking is not the way to go. It seems like that's still like a tactic, I guess, a way for people to be working and everything. And so much more, I've never been great at multitasking. Like something is getting, half-assed done, essentially, is what it comes down to. Like, I'm just not focusing all of my attention on something. So I've never been able to really like multitask. Like, I've always enjoyed having a checklist, sort of to-do list sort of thing, knock one thing out at a time. And I know that that's becoming, like, the lack of multitasking is becoming more of a thing. But so anytime I read that it's being reinforced that it's not the best way to handle something, I'm like, oh, thank goodness, like somebody else is on my side about this. And just, I enjoyed that sort of reinforcement from the book, but it's also like
No.
you don't realize how many other things are then going to benefit from you not multitasking, because you're giving 100% to everything, which is harder to do depending on your workload and, you know, all of the little things that come in and out of like our daily inboxes and stuff. But I listened to the book, not in a different language. But it was fun to listen to it in that way, especially in hearing that, because I'm listening to it kind of while I was multitasking, like while I'm working out or I'm driving. So it's kind of like, well, like this kind of multitasking is still okay, right? Like I can focus on walking and still listening. But it was an easy listen. I liked the content of it, and you know, I especially like reading things that reinforce what I'm already trying to do.
Isn't that funny? It's so funny that we're such, you know, obvious human beings, right? Whenever you're reading, I really like that book. Oh, well, why do you like it so much? Well, it talks about prospecting and I love prospecting.
Yeah.
It's very funny that we're just so predictable. Of course you like the book because it reinforces what you do. He says that you can do multitasking as long as you don't have to think. So he does say you can walk and chew gum at the same time, or obviously we can walk and breathe at the same time. But if it's something that we have to think about or
Right.
pay attention to, that's when it's a problem. So yeah, I thought I typically have been a multitasker, but I keep reading that is not the way to go. So I am paying attention to that. One of my favorite early on, before I got to the don't worry about the emails in the inbox, which I was, you know, jumping up and down screaming this morning, was chapter 7 talks about willpower. And who the hell knew? I never knew this. I must have sent this to 3 people. I took copies of pages. 3, that willpower, it says, think of willpower. So willpower, we run out of willpower. And it says, think of willpower like the power bar on your cell phone. Every morning you start off with a full charge. As the day goes on, every time you draw on it, you're using it up. So as your green bar shrinks, so does your resolve. So for everyone that's ever been on a diet, me, I now know why at night I can't resist the chocolate bar. As your green bar shrinks, so does your resolve. And when it eventually goes red, you're done. Willpower has a limited battery life, but can be recharged with some downtime, which is, again, we were just reading, I think 2 books ago, about how important taking a break is. And that book, I don't remember the book's name, if Greg would remember, but it likened itself to when you're working out a muscle. And when does the muscle grow? When it's in recovery state, not when you're pushing it. So he says it is limited, but it's a renewable resource. And we fail to recognize that willpower is a limited resource. So I didn't know that. I never knew that willpower, I was sending this to my girlfriend, who she and I are always, you know, we need to diet. We're always talking about fit, you know, exercise and eating right. And I'm like, look at this is our problem. We use up all of our willpower during the day and all of our brain power working. We maybe don't eat right, don't exercise. By the end of the night, no wonder we do things that are not good for us. Who knew? Go ahead, Liz.
Yeah, and he says the antidote to that are habits. So, you know, it's like making things automatic. So that's how I lost 40 pounds. It was all through habit changes. Like I can resist the chocolate because I'm in a habit of never being hungry. I eat plenty of protein. I don't eat many carbs. I exercise every day because I'm in that habit. So that's kind of like his strategy that I think works really well with whether it's lifestyle changes in your health or also, you know, anything with work, is that you habitualize your success by your taking daily action on it.
Absolutely. So we've got so many people on board. So Greg Parsons, who's actually taking over the book club next year, I'm going to help him. He can't get on. I don't know why he can't get on. Josie sent him the link, so hopefully he'll join us. But Nancy or Jeff Sokloff or Aubrey or Pavol, any of you guys did you read the book and have some input before I go on and just keep talking, you know, you're all's ear off?
Yes, I actually had some input on the willpower / discipline into habit conversation, because I have a tendency to, well, first of all, when I'm not where I want to be, I'm like, I just got to discipline myself, right? And I will go hard, and then I get burnt out, and I get off of the willpower cycle, and then I'm exhausted, and then it takes everything back in, you know, out of me to get back onto the discipline real hard. So the being free to say, let's do one thing, discipline yourself enough to make it a habit, and then give yourself some time to rejuvenate. I was like, okay, like, to me, that was something that really stuck out, so that I can keep the cycle going, because I will just go until I'm just flatlined.
And that's, you know, we all know that that's not good. So the other thing that I loved in the book was I'm going to ask you guys, you know, you can put it in the chat or you can scream it out. How many days does it take to form a habit? What have we been told?
21.
How many days? 20. So Aubrey says 21. Kara, how many days have we been told?
Like from different people or different sources?
From self gurus. How many days to form a habit?
Like about 30 or so. I can't remember, but somewhere around there.
Yeah. Anyone else? Who knows? Jeff says 30 days. This guy, and I have tried to form habits in 30 days. It doesn't work for me. So this guy says 66 days. 60, which I think is right. You know, I have a girlfriend right now doing the 75 hard, which, you know, I don't know if I could ever do I could do the no alcohol, drinking a gallon of water every day, working out twice for 45 minutes. One of them has to be outside, reading every day. That would be easy for me. And eating only clean foods. Okay. For 75 days, there's no way. But I know why they have 75 days, because I could do that for 30 and it would not be a habit for me. So I did the 5 a.m. club. We all read that book last year during COVID. I did that for 68 days. You know, I did it at the end. I'm like, I didn't get anything of that doing these 6 things for 15 minutes every morning. I did it 68 days though. It had become kind of a habit. And then I woke up and said, I'm not getting an ROI on this. I think because a lot of the stuff, the reading, the affirmations, the meditation, all of the things, I kind of was already doing it. It wasn't additive. The one thing that was additive was the working out, which is the thing that is the weakest in my world, right? I'll get up and work all day, but working out is like, eh. So, but 66 days. And he talks about, everyone says it's 21. It's definitely not 21. So I thought that was informational and accurate. And it was the first time I actually saw someone say something other than 21 days. So
yeah, I've
that.
always heard the 21 days too. And then when he said 66, because 21 days, that flies by. Like, that's nothing. I feel like my willpower at 21 days, like, I'm still amped up and excited by like day 45. I'm like, this sucks. I hate everything. But like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, this adds up. Like 66 days makes a lot more sense.
My girlfriend that's doing the 75 hard. So it's Stacy Mooney, who does Retail Live. So if you don't follow her on Instagram, you should follow her, just because she, does Retail Live. So she has retailers all of the time, posting stuff on her Instagram. But she posted today that it's hump day for her for the 75 hard. So I guess she's in the middle, whatever that is, whatever the 38 maybe. And I just can't even imagine she's got 38 more days left of that. Good for her. Good for her. She's inspiring. Her name is Stacy Mooney, Mooney. Her next Retail Live is in February in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'll be there. And
Me too.
So awesome. We'll see each other, Brooke. So Stacy Mooney, Retail Live. So follow her. It's inspirational what she's doing. I mean, I've seen there's a lot of guys like Corey Zelnick in New York City, Jason Ciano, like all these guys have done 75 hard, and I've watched their progress. I haven't seen any girls do it. I think it's kind of hard. Kara, could you do it 75 hard, do you think? It would be hard, right? No
I don't
pun
think I
intended.
could do it. I mean, you said it was working out twice a day and stuff like that. That's a lot. I mean, like physically, like on your body, like, I don't know. I can't. I like
We can
a
all
lot
do
of
it.
balance.
We should all
and
use
that doesn't
positive
sound-
words, right? We should all use positive words, right? We could all do it. It's just that, yeah, the working out, it's 2 workouts, 45 minutes, and 1 has to be outside. So when Corey did it last year, he was like, in New York, it's 30 degrees. I was like, you know. Like,
Yeah. Definitely makes you mentally strong, I'm sure.
yeah, for sure. So in chapter 9, he talks about goals and how none of us think big enough or as big as we can achieve. So going back to 75 hard, like, I don't think I could do it. I know I could do it if I wanted to do it. I don't want to do it, but we don't, our goals are nowhere near as big as what we can accomplish.
Mhm.
And if any of you have not read the book, or even if you have read the book, I would highly recommend that you go back and read chapter 9 again, just because, I do a lot of coaching and it's the same thing over and over again. We underestimate ourselves and we don't have goals as big. Like, I have a client who this year she did 202,000 in fees. Phenomenal year. Last year she did under 100. So 202. Congratulations. So last week when we met, her new goal for 2022 was 350. Well, I said to her, do you have the listings to provide that? Because I was nervous she didn't have the listings to provide that, which then we would have worked on her goals to get the listings to provide the 350. So for the next call, she sends in all of her listings. Well, her listings, again, if she leased all of them, which we know we don't always lease all of our listings to 100%, would have given her income over 600. So we changed her goals. We changed her goal. We call her new goals. We did 401,000. So we call it the 401k plan. So and she's like scared. She's like, I was scared at 350. I go, but look right here. You have the listings. Now we just have to create the plan. And he talks about that here in the book, how you have the big goal, which and you guys know, those of you that know me, love goal setting. So what's the big goal? He says, where do you want to be in 5 years? So what do you need to be doing in now for the next year? And then what do you need to be doing in the next 6 months? And then the next 3 months, and then the next month, and then the next week, and then today. Which I think is a fabulous way. I don't think you should do that on 10 goals because, you might spend a month working on that. But I think if you pick the big goal and then work it backwards, I think is a fabulous idea. So I want to open meditation studios that I keep putting off because of probably fear. And I wrote down everything I need to do. If I want 500, is that a big goal? 500 meditation studios in the next 5 years. That's a big goal. And I did the whole thing. I wrote it in the margin. I did 5 years, 1 year, quarterly, 30 days, 1 week, today. So today I had to call the bank to talk about the SBA loan, and I spent 30 minutes on my business plan. So whatever goal you have that's big, work it backwards like that. And that is part of chapter 9 and another chapter. Who else has read the book? And Jeff, can you talk or no?
Yeah, I can talk. How are you?
I'm awesome. Did you read the book?
I read it actually a few years ago. I was involved in a side hustle and I heard it on a podcast, and some, it really spoke to me. So I ran out, I bought the book, and I think it's for what the point you just raised was how you break down your objectives and your goals. And they could be in really any part of your life, obviously. And, what's that big goal and what do I have to do to achieve that? And I think that my life took a little bit of a curve. So I got thrown off that track a little bit, but I think that that was the biggest takeaway from me in regard to this book and how you put goals together and objectives and achieve them. And I guess there's another form called I think it's transactional analysis is a more scientific term for it. And there's a whole science about that, and that it's basically the same thing, is breaking down your goals and objectives into individual activities and actions, and the thought of what's the most important thing that I can do today in order to make everything else easier for me. And if you're constantly answering that question, and I don't do it enough, but if you're constantly answering that question, you're gonna be able to achieve quite a bit.
Exactly. Yeah, your life got a little bit turned around, but now it's back on track, right?
Thank God.
Yeah, going back to what we were talking about earlier about priority, here's the paragraph. To be precise, the word is priority, not priorities. And it was originated in the 14th century from the Latin prior, meaning first. If something mattered the most, it was a priority. Curiously, priority remained unpluralized until the 20th century, when all of us workaholics got into the world. When the world apparently demoted it to meaning generally something that matters, and the plural priorities appeared. With the loss of its initial intent, a wide variety of sayings like most pressing matter, prime concern, on the front burner, pitched into recapturing the essence of the original definition and meaning. Today, we elevate priority to its former meaning by adding highest priority, top priority, first priority, main priority, and most important priority in front of it. It would seem that the word priority and the meaning has traveled an interesting road. How interesting is that? So another part of the book that I loved, which is something I say a lot. So, and Kara, the girls that go on my wire trip know that I say all the time, women especially, that no is a complete sentence. Right? Kara, you've heard me say that. No,
I love that saying.
So he devotes a whole chapter on saying no. And for anyone that has a problem saying no, you should read that chapter, and trying to find which chapter it is. I think it's chapter 17. So because we want to be helpful people, but that hurts us, because you're getting interrupted. You're getting asked to do things you don't want to do. And we're worried what people are going to think. So we say yes. And yeah, it says this is chapter 17, the 4 thieves. One being the first one, inability of saying no. Someone once told me that one yes this is great. One yes, so yes, I will help you, must be defended over time by 1,000 no's. Well, I don't believe anyone on this call does 1,000 no's to get a yes. There's no way, right? Early in my career, I didn't understand this at all. Today, I think it's an understatement. So one yes, I will be on the HOA board. You needed to say 1,000 no's to get to that yes. That's a really good guide for every time you say yes to something that you're saying well, why am I saying yes to go get insurance for this tenant when it would take me an hour to do that, when really the property management department should be doing this, and I could be spending an hour prospecting. Now, But again, you want to be a team player too, right? It's not like we should be saying, oh, it's not our job. We should be being team players. But there's a lot of times where we're asked to do something that we probably should think twice or 4 times or 5 times or 5 minutes before we say just an automatic sure. And he also talks in here somewhere where it's so easy to just, do your to-do list, and the to-do list is filled with things that are not meaningful and that don't contribute to that one big goal. I'm going to try to find that while we're continuing to have discussion. Sherry Mendenhall, did you read the book?
No, I didn't, but Jeff said I absolutely must read it and told me to be on this call. And so I said, okay, so now it sounds very interesting, so I will have to get the book.
It's a really good book. Nancy, did you read the book? Nancy can't speak. Is it Pavol or Pavol?
It's Pavo.
Hi, Pavol. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the book club discussion. Did you have a
Thank
chance
you.
to read the book?
It seems unfortunately not.
That's
But
okay. You don't have to read the book to be here. Sometimes people listen to this call and then they go get the book. Sometimes I say I don't like the book at all. And there's sometimes people love the book. I don't really like the book. There's been a few books where I haven't liked the book. So, Aubrey, any other takeaways from the book?
The to-do list was something that I fall victim to as well, but I have, with my limited time in my schedule, I've been forced to do the most important thing. So, but I've always felt, oh my God, I gotta have a list though. You know what I mean? But the freedom again is everything doesn't have to get done. And if I do the most important thing, then that'll make my life easy enough and I can cross off the rest of it whenever I get a chance. So that was another thing that stuck out to me too.
I mean, I think, he does talk about, he says, when he describes his day, he says he does his little morning routine, whatever that's exercising, meditating. And then he says, when he gets in the office, he does an hour of things, not the big thing. He does an hour where he cleans things up. I would have to do that, right? Because I wouldn't be able to come into my office and just go launching into prospecting for 4 hours or whatever my big thing was, because the idea in my mind that I was not doing something that Josie asked me to do that would have taken 1 minute would have been gnawing at me and not allowing me to concentrate on the one big thing. So I think it is important that, but again, like he gives an example of Jerry Seinfeld, and he says that Jerry Seinfeld or Stephen King, he said that Stephen King every morning from like 7 to 11 would write. So, and that was what worked for Stephen King. So, but so you have to, he does talk in another chapter about being self-aware. So sometimes in the morning, my morning routine is coffee, newspaper, CNBC, walk for 3 miles. And that's my morning routine every day. And if I don't do that morning routine, I'm off. So that is definitely a habit that I have built. Then, when I come back, I shower, I make a smoothie. While I'm drinking the smoothie, I'm looking at emails, and I'm looking at emails throughout, like when I'm reading the newspaper or watching CNBC, walking, I'm looking at emails. But when I'm sitting there eating breakfast or drinking a smoothie, I would say 3 or 4 times a week to send out, 8 to 10 DMs on Instagram and Facebook for prospecting, because I love to be able to kind of check that off in the event that I get to the office or I have 5 showings or whatever is going on in my day. I know without, over and above everything else, I got those 8 to 10 DMs out, those, prospects to the 8 hamburger places or the 8 tattoo parlors or whatever it is, the use that I'm going after. So that's my routine. Now, then I get into the office, I, meet with Chloe, or I talk to my partners, or, I'm looking at financial statements, or I'm talking to the mortgage broker, whatever, I'm looking at LOIs, I'm doing all of that other stuff. And then hopefully, for me, it's about 3 times a week where I'll then focus and do some prospecting again, whether we're out canvassing in the community or doing it online, right? So I think that, Aubrey, there's no way that I couldn't check off some things on my list, because it would absolutely distract me on my focus. It would keep, I wonder, well, should I have done that? Like, I wouldn't have been able to focus. So that's me being self-aware and knowing that I've got to get some things out of the way first before, and sometimes he talks about how your environment is important. So many of us, are still working from home or worked from home before we started working from home, and how important it is to have a good working environment at home or in the office. Some people, before COVID, a lot of people worked in cubicles or open areas, very hard to focus, but they had maybe a place where you could go into a conference room, rent it for, or like put your name on it for an hour, close the door. In certain times in my past where I've gone to do a presentation, where I've had to write, a presentation for, if I'm going to a company's headquarters to, create a training session for 8 leasing agents, I would go to the law library at Nova Southeastern University sometimes, because when you put yourself in a different environment, for me, that helps me focus versus shutting my door here where I know anyone can walk in, someone can knock on the door. I go to a library, I've got, my research, I'm working on this workshop that I'm going to, that I need to prepare 3 or 4 hours of a presentation. It helps me to go to a completely foreign environment where I don't know anyone there. There are a bunch of law students. So, and I can sit down and just kind of dive in on maybe it's a Saturday afternoon, a Tuesday afternoon, whatever, and leave there with, 4 hours of drafts of material that I can then hone from there. So that has helped me.
Well, for me, my son is in school during the day, so that's my time to focus. And if there are things like cleaning up, straightening up, making sure my house is so I'm not distracted, I know I have to do that in the evening because I got to maximize my 8 to 2:30. So same thing. And yeah, and I'll go to a Starbucks or something, and yeah, there's music and everything, or I may even put on music. But like you said, you don't know anyone, so I can dive in my computer and nobody's going to distract me, and neither are the dishes or whatever.
And it does distract you, the dishes and the socks on the floor and the dog barking. I mean, all of that. When I was finishing my last book, I would go to Starbucks and do the edits because, it wasn't writing the book. It was just doing the edits. So I would sit at Starbucks with headphones on and just, get the edits to the editor. And that was a great environment to do that in. What else do we have to talk about? Any other comments about the book or our year? Can you believe another year? This is our 4th year of the book club.
Wow.
Brooke, how long have you been a member of the book club?
Well, I have to confess, I only recently was able to get back into it. So I missed a good chunk. I feel like I missed quite a few months. But I think it was probably going on 3 years now, because it was shortly after I switched to brokerage and went and did your workshop and stuff. And I was like, oh, somebody else who likes to read, I'm in. So yeah, I think probably 3 years now. And then my hiatus this past summer and stuff, but I'm back. I'm reading again. I'm back in action.
Do you have a favorite book of the book club?
I still tell everybody to read Never Split the Difference. I loved that book. I mean, unfortunately, there are times where I end up splitting the difference and I'm not happy about it, but I just still think it was one of the more interesting books, like the perspective of it, especially from like the hostage negotiation like side of things. But I have used a lot of the stuff in that, both in negotiating for like work deals, but also like I helped my brother-in-law and my sister, like they purchased a vehicle recently. I'm like, oh, I got you guys. Like, I know how to do this. But that's still like one of the main ones where like anybody who asked me, but I also too was actually just talking about rejection proof this morning. Because somebody was talking about like our industry and how like you must hear no a lot, and I was like, I do hear no a lot. I was like, I read this book and basically like I've learned to accept the word no and then ask follow-up questions to it. I was like, so it's really not that terrible hearing the word no all the time. But I those two were two of my favorites. And then I don't know, because like I said, I missed a little bit, but a book that I read recently, The Birth of a Building. Have you heard of that?
I'm gonna write it down.
But it's a book about like, I mean, the birth of a building, like how a building gets developed from the entire, like, I have this idea, identifying a lot, the financing, the legal side, the property management, the lease up. It was a really interesting book. It's new-ish, like within the past, I think it came out just in the past like year and a half, maybe. But that book is one that I've told a lot of people who are newer in like real estate and stuff like that to check out, just because you get the whole behind the scenes, like, oh, so this is how this building came about kind of thing. So, but probably from your book club, I've definitely Rejection Proof and Never Split the Difference are probably my top two.
I tell you, by far, I would say 80% of anyone, when I'm at ICSCs, people walk up to me and go, oh my gosh, Never Split the Difference, the best book ever, right? And
It's a really good one.
Probably 2 days ago, I said to Chloe, send the text, right? The infamous text. I presume by your lack of, by your MIA status or by your, the crickets I'm hearing, you're no longer interested in this deal. And every time we send the text, the guy immediately texts us back.
It gets people's attention, and it kind of like the psychology behind that entire book. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this does make sense. And like, I've also realized how quickly I've fallen trapped to that, like on the reverse side of it and stuff. But yeah, that one definitely couldn't recommend enough.
Yeah, it works every single time, that text.
Yeah.
We were having a workshop a couple of months ago, the first live one after COVID, and I had a group of people, and I was talking about this, and one of the guys was like, that doesn't really work. And I go, okay. Okay. I said, is there anyone that you're been dealing with that you just can't get a hold of? He goes, yeah, actually 2 people. I said, okay, do you have their texts? I said, so this is what you say. And within 5 minutes, both of them, he got a response from, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm eating crow. So that was awesome. I love when that happens.
Yeah.
And they usually say, yeah, I am interested, because then they're like, wait.
Yeah, they don't want you to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want you to be the takeaway, right? They want to be in charge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. Happy holidays to you too, Nancy. So any other comments on the book before we close out? So Greg and I need to get together. He has a bunch of books that he wants to present. I am going to be around. I'm just going to let him take over. And I think what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be inviting people to share their favorite books. So Brooke, maybe we'll have you do The Birth of a Building at some point in 2022.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to talk to you offline too. The author is actually in Raleigh and came to our book club. And he's a really nice guy. He'd probably be willing to like get on like our call and stuff. So if you do pick that one, try and put me in touch with Greg, and I'll see if I can get Ben to get on with us.
What's his name? Ben what?
I was going to say, I think I actually have his book.
That would be great. We've had authors. We had Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone, and we've had Jeb Blunt. So we've had authors come on in the past.
Yeah, so it's Ben Stevens.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would love that. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, anyone have anything else to add before we sign off for this month's book club?
If I may, to add something,
Yes.
beside self-improvement, topics, I just would like to inform you that recently I purchased a book called How Real Estate Developers Think. That's the book, which I'm very interested in this topic, because one thing is that how we try to improve our strategies and ourselves and organize, etc. But what I'm also interested is on the other side, how the other side is thinking, what are their motives, how to actually adapt to this, how to better understand these guys, since we are serving them many times. And sometimes for me, it's just like totally unlogical, how they think that you think that they are very highly intelligent, they are rich, etc. But at the end, you find that there are some fundamentals. They are just blinded by big egos, and it's very difficult to talk to these guys, So for me, if you know any other book which will get me closer to these guys, to better understand how to work with these big egos. And I can tell you, I work in the Middle East also in the past 4 years. So there are different kind of egos, So for me, I would be very grateful for that. If you have any idea of any book, a part of this, which I just found, which caught my interest by the name, How Real Estate Developers Think, I would very appreciate it.
I'll send you on LinkedIn some other books that that might apply to that. I mean, I've developed a whopping 2 properties, and I will tell you, it's not because we're brilliant. It's definitely not. I think we see some things that other people don't see, and then we are not afraid of risk, because developing is super, super risky. And you have to have an ego to say, I don't care what everyone's saying. They say that it can happen. I'm going to make it happen. So we are ego driven. I've only done it twice, but you have to have these skills, ego driven, that why can you do it when the other guy couldn't do it? What do you see that someone else doesn't see? And then I think when a leasing agent is working with someone like me, like a developer, you've got to be optimistic, because we are all very optimistic. So I have interviewed leasing folks where they're very negative, but I don't want them to be pie in the sky and saying, oh, I can lease it in 3 months. Then we see through that, and that's crap. But if you have someone that comes in and says, you're not going to get 40 a square foot, well, okay, then you're not going to get hired, right? So there has to be a mixture of practicality and optimism, and then back it up with experience and market knowledge. So if someone walks in and says, you want 60, I think I can get 40, 45, but I'm willing to go and try to get 60, because I'm always thinking, and Kara worked for me, so she'll know, developers, we think bigger.
Mhm.
Because if we don't, then we would never develop. So I love I'm going to read the book, Pavel, How Do Real Estate Developers Think. I'll tell you if they say what I'm thinking.
The other one too, that I think we read here, Think Big, Act Bigger. That one might be a good one. I think it deals a lot with like egos and like understanding, like getting in the mentality of like what the name of his company is, like Tall Grass or something, and his saying behind it is like, if you can't roll with the big dogs kind of thing, then don't sort of try it. But it talks about like ego and stuff like that too. So that might be.
And that guy, that author we had him on the call too, and he's an egomaniac also.
Yes.
That guy.
You took the words out of my mouth on that one.
There you go. All right, well, guys, go ahead,
Thank you.
Pavel.
No, yeah, thank you. I understand that these guys are also many times under pressure from the financing banks. So it's also another story, another angle, of the view.
Well,
So-
Right, because we're signing, I'm signing personally for a loan. So that pressure, like, it's crazy to be a developer. Like,
Yeah.
there's very few people that sign for the risk, have this vision, and then have to deliver on the vision and be tough and deal with all the obstacles. And then, you may not make the money, you might lose a lot of money. It's crazy people that develop. So after I did the first one, I said, I'm never doing another one again. And now I'm in the middle of the second one. We're crazy people, Pavel, crazy. All
Thank
right.
you.
Happy holidays. Thanks for participating. And we will be posting as soon as Greg and I get together and figure out what the next 12 months. And if you have a book suggestion like Brooke did, please send it to us and we'll include it on the list.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Happy
Happy holidays.
holidays.
Everybody, happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks for
Bye.
being
Bye.
here.